Hey, my name's Desiree and I'm a realtor here in San Antonio, Texas. My family and I moved across the country twice in less than 1 year, so I definitely understand the stress associated with a big relocation. So in this video, you're gonna learn how to get through your next big move with as few casualties as possible, so stick around till the end. Panic is a real thing when you're going through a huge life change. You may have never left your hometown and just the thought of it has you feeling overwhelmed. And you need to know it is okay to let your emotions run their course. It really is. Get the fear out, but afterwards, grab your favorite beverage, hang out on the couch for a little bit, get cleaned up, and go to sleep for the night. Then you're ready to start prepping for your big move. Now, the most important thing you're gonna hear from me is please, please, please do not wait until the last minute to start getting ready for the move. You don't have to be neurotic like me, but this isn't something that you want to procrastinate on either. You want to give yourself at least a few months to get through your to-do list so that we can avoid panic attack 2.0. Alright, so we've released all of those negative emotions and we are ready to get that prep work started. What is our first step? Obviously, it's making a list. Alright, so most of you probably think that this is a trivial task, but just hear me out. According to psychologists, our brains really like checklists for a few reasons. First of all, they help to keep our anxiety in check. Second of all, they give us a structured plan that we're hopefully capable of sticking to. Third of all, and this one is big, you guys, they are proof of our accomplishments. Our brains are good at obsessing over all of the little things we have to do, but they're terrible at remembering our achievements, which is why the to-do list is so valuable here. As soon as we cross something off the to-do list, we have a reason to celebrate. And on top of that, we have tangible proof to our future selves that we are getting things done. So even if you're not really a list person, just go ahead and make one. You'll be super happy that you not only have a way to keep yourself organized, but that you also can keep track over the next few months of all the progress that you're making. Alright, step number 2. Start the process of requesting your medical and dental records. Why? Well, the biggest reason is simply for continuity of care. Having your records will prevent you from having to guess about whether or not you're up to date on your immunizations, dates of past procedures you've had done, and any complaints that you've expressed to previous doctors. You will need to sign a release form to get these records, so make sure you get it done ahead of time. And if you plan on hand carrying your records rather than just having them sent out to your new primary care provider, just make sure that you're consistently following up so that you can make sure you do have those records in hand before your move starts. Now, you really do want to start the cancellation process as soon as you know that you're moving, because it could take a month or more to get things sorted for you. If your move is several months out and you start the cancellation process early, it is possible that you can set up an automatic cancellation with your gym so that you can continue using facilities up until right before your move and then not have to worry about late minute cancellation fees. File an official change of address with USPS. This one is big and it's so simple that there's really no reason not to do it. But every time we move, it never fails. We always end up with leftover mail from the previous residents. We've gotten anything from junk mail to important mail like bills or tax information. So make sure to set up a forwarding address with USPS starting at least a few days before you're expecting to relocate. Now, typically mail forwarding lasts up to a year, but you still want to make sure that you notify banks and other institutions that need to know about the change of address as soon as possible. Figure out how you want to transport your stuff. First, you really do need to know and understand what you want to get out of your moving experience. Are you looking to save as much money as you possibly can? Are you looking for a more stress-free and streamlined process? Or are you going to be in need of a temporary storage solution while you're getting situated in your new location? You really do need to think hard about these questions. But in addition to that, you also need to consider your tolerance for any level of craziness that might occur during the move. Personally, I'm a big fan of packing up all your belongings and then hiring a moving company to load them up onto the truck and transport them to the next location. And during our first cross-country move, this was actually what we ended up doing, and we had minimal complaints about it. I packed up the entire house and got rid of most of our large furniture items, so for the most part, all the movers had to worry about was loading and unloading our boxes. There were a couple items that they had to disassemble, but for the most part, the entire moving process was very simple and straightforward. When they got to my husband with all of our things, they unloaded the truck, they reassembled a couple of the furniture pieces that they ended up taking apart, and then they left, and that was that. But if you do plan on going that route and hiring a moving company, just make sure that you interview a few different ones so that you can find the right fit for you. So during our first big move, I called several moving companies and got, quotes from them. And I have to say, I'm really glad that I shopped around a little bit because some of the prices that they were quoting were double what we ended up paying. And then actually there was one company in particular that was very unprofessional, ended up canceling their first walkthrough appointment with me, and then when they finally did show up for that appointment after rescheduling with me, their sales rep was actually very unprofessional and really just didn't show any interest in what we were going through and talking about at the time. The second company that we ended up interviewing with and doing a walkthrough with was much more professional, and we had a much better experience with them. And again, had no complaints come moving day, and our things got to the location they needed to be safely. So, again, it's worth it to shop around and an interview when you're trying to find a company to move your household for you. But I do feel like if I hadn't interviewed and had instead just gone with the first company that came out, I really do believe that my experience would have been a lot different in a negative way. Now, for our most recent move, we went the DIY route. We spent a couple of months packing up our house, which again isn't abnormal for me because I tend to do most of my own packing. But then we had to spend 2 days loading up the moving truck. And then of course we had to drive all of it 21 hours to the next location. On top of that, the moving truck did break down on us a few hours into the move, which added several hours to the trip. Someone actually had to come out and get the truck fixed enough so that it could get back on the road, but our party still had to take the rental truck to a designated mechanic to get it worked on more, which meant that, we weren't on the road headed to our next destination. This is really not something that you want to be dealing with at the tail end of your move. But sadly, this is not an uncommon experience, and if you look around, you'll hear stories about people who've had similar situations pop up. So for me personally, I really don't like to move far distances with all my things. I like to leave DIY for a move within your city. But for a big multi-day move, you really are taking a risk. And then lastly, if you do need a temporary storage solution, there are companies like Pods that offer that bundled in with the relocation services that they provide. What happens with these companies is you'll typically order a container and the company will have it dropped off, at which point you'll load it up at your leisure and then schedule a date and time for them to pick the container up. They'll transport the container, they'll store it if they need to, and then when you're ready to receive your household goods, they will drop it off, at which point you unload it, and then when you're ready for them to take the container away, you call them up, let them know, and they come and get it for you. Now, I did look into this solution for our first move, but the savings really didn't make up for the amount of extra work that I would have to put into loading up the container. In addition to that, there was actually one very large, heavy, bulky household item that we had. There's no way I would have been able to load that item up on my own, and so I would have still needed to hire somebody to come out and put that item in the container for me. But when you're contemplating these different options, you really do have to ask yourself, how much is your sanity worth? All right, number 6, schedule a date for your utilities to be turned off and on. This includes the internet, you guys. Now, you probably won't be able to get your internet set up until you actually get to your new location, but water, electricity, and gas are things that can be turned on without you being present. Declutter your life. Now, do you really need all 30 of those Costco storage bins that you keep in your garage? You probably don't. Now, we really could make an entire video just on decluttering because a lot of people do struggle with this in their day-to-day. And I get it, decluttering can be a very painful experience for a lot of people. You may not want to go through the work of sorting through 15 years of your life. Maybe you don't want to contemplate tossing items that you have no use for, but you're still strongly attached to them. But if you can take this extra step, your future self is going to thank you. And really, once this process is done, you're gonna be so happy that you can move into your new place without all this additional baggage, and you'll really feel like you're starting fresh, which is honestly just such an amazing experience. Okay, number 9 is put together your essentials box. If you've hired movers, it may be several days before your household goods actually catch up to you. And even if you've gone the DIY route, you might get into your new location either really early in the morning or super late at night. And after a big move, you're gonna be exhausted. You're not going to want to start unloading your truck first thing. So having that essentials box packed is gonna allow you to just quickly locate and get out the stuff that you need to get you through your first couple of days in your home somewhat comfortably. Remember, this essentials box is really mostly for if you're getting in super early or super late and you need to have stuff on hand so that you can get yourself cleaned up, get yourself a little bit of a nap in so that you can, just start kind of unloading things, maybe get yourself to the store. And then just a note, in your essentials box, you want to make sure that you have whatever important documents you might need. Personally, I like to keep my important documents on my person, so if I'm moving, they're either in my carry-on bag or, you know, in my suitcase that I keep with me at all times. I don't like to have them packed in a box, but if you've got a small box that you're putting essentials in and you're leaving that in the trunk of your car and you want to put your essential documents in there, you know, obviously that's okay too. But again, for me personally, I like to keep them on my person. That's what I've always done. It's what I recommend, but you'll ultimately need to decide what works best for you as you're going through your move. Having your parts box together is really important. This is mostly for people who are going the DIY route. If you are hiring movers, they're gonna take apart all of your furniture and they're gonna have actually their own little parts box that they put all those extra pieces in. You should follow suit, and when you're taking your furniture apart, put the screws to things in a little Ziploc bag. Make sure you label that bag. Make sure you have whatever tools you need. Alright you guys, so tip 11 is simply just to plan your route in advance. But if you are driving, you know, do yourself a favor and kind of map out your route a couple weeks in advance, just so that you have an idea of where you want to stay and where you don't want to stay. There are definitely going to be some cities, some areas that you're not going to want to drive through in the middle of the night. And the last thing that you want is to find yourself at 2 o'clock in the morning really needing to stop and just not having a good place to stay. You know, either having to sleep in your car at a truck stop or having to stop at some kind of rinky-dinky motel. We don't want that. The move has already been stressful, so let's try to find some rest stops, you know, maybe like 2 or 3 areas that you might want to consider staying, and let's try to make them reasonable. One thing to think about, one thing to consider is potentially staying in an Airbnb. You know, I've stayed in a couple different hotels, you know, to and from different locations, and as hard as I try to make sure to look at reviews and, you know, pick some place that's reasonable but still affordable, you know, something that's not scary or gross, we still end up at times staying in places that aren't great. Maybe the air conditioner's broken, maybe it's a little dingy, I don't know. You just don't get a great vibe, but you stay there because you need a place to sleep, right? So now that Airbnbs have become more commonplace, there's a lot of nice ones around that are pretty reasonably priced. And so you may actually be able to find a nice Airbnb for cheaper than a mediocre hotel. So that is something to consider. Also, it's okay to splurge on a little bit of a nicer place. If that is going to help you get the best rest, go ahead and get that nicer hotel, as long as it's not breaking the bank. But really, I mean, the one thing that helps me sleep best is knowing that I'm in a clean environment. Some people don't really care that much, and they're just kind of like, hey, I just want to get through the move as quickly as possible. But if that's you, if you're gonna feel the most comfortable being in a cleaner space, you know, go ahead and splurge for the nicer hotel room. You'll get better sleep, and then the next morning you'll be mentally more prepared to just kind of get through that last leg of the trip. So, you know, I would say now that you're at the end of your move, you've got all your things packed up, you've booked your moving company, or you've, figured out how you're going to transport your things, go ahead and visit those locations that are meaningful to you or that you're just gonna miss. Stop by your favorite restaurants, get your favorite meals, go and visit the beach or your favorite hiking spots one last time. Do some of those touristy things that you never got an opportunity to do, while you were living there as a local, but maybe always wanted to. Anyway, now's your chance to do that. So get out, explore your city a little bit, appreciate it a little bit, say goodbye, leave on a good note. Trust me, when you get to your new location, you are going to be really, really glad that you went and ate at your favorite restaurants one last time. All right, the final tip, you guys, and this one's really important. Get excited about your new city. I love, love, love moving because to me, it's all about new beginnings. And I do realize that that's a bit of a romanticized idea, but I mean, truly, it really is about having a fresh start and taking steps towards reinventing your life in a way that makes sense for you and for your family. And sometimes a big move can be exactly what you need to do that. Sometimes all it takes is a change of scenery. So get excited, you guys, because this move is giving you an opportunity to leave behind toxic relationships. It is giving you an opportunity to escape a depressing environment. It's giving you an opportunity to explore a new area and see things that you've maybe never seen before. And it's giving you a chance to go on a new adventure and to meet new people. So consider making some flexible plans for after your arrival. Now, keep in mind, you might need a little bit of time to decompress, and that's totally okay. Sleep in a little bit, maybe sit outside on the porch or the patio, order in, whatever you end up doing, don't be afraid to listen to your body. If you feel like you need time to just rest and, just kind of sit around, just, get a little bit of unpacking done here and there, but definitely make sure you have a plan in the event that you are feeling kind of antsy. If you have children, we have the museum that you can go to. There are a couple of art museums downtown. The Riverwalk is a great location for families to visit different restaurants and get some shopping done. It's also very beautiful. We have Six Flags Fiesta, and then of course for those that really do like being in nature, we do have a lot of hiking trails that you can visit throughout the city. There's pretty much something for everyone to get excited about.